Well, hello everyone and welcome back to another Can-Am Spyder video. So it looks like this is going to be our last ride of the season.
My last ride, not your last ride.
Yeah, I've got one more ride. I'm going to have to take the bike in next week for its sort of end of season service. Decided to have the dealership do it this time as opposed to me doing it myself. That way the bike's all ready for the spring. So the 2022 riding season is coming to a close, Les. I know, it's sad. It just seems like we just got started, but here we are at the end of it. So we're going to go for a ride today. It's a nice, pleasant day today. We're supposed to get up to around 21 degrees Celsius as the afternoon wears on. So we're just going to go for a little ride around, and while we're out there, we're going to just sort of review everything we did on the bike this year. But I guess the other thing we're going to talk about right now is this marks pretty much almost exactly 1 year since we had the new 2021 RT Limited. We've had it for a year. We've put about, I think, over 10,000 kilometers on it. I should probably look, but it's definitely over 10,000 kilometers. It had about 2,000 on when we got it, and we've put the balance on. So what have we got to say, Les, about this new bike from your perspective?
We love it.
We love it.
Yeah, I can stay on it a lot longer than I could before, and there's more time between breaks. And the only reason you have me out today is because I have the option of the seat warmer and the handlebar grip warmer. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was out recently on a ride, and I'll tell you, it was a little chilly, and I had my seat on and the grips on, and it just takes that little edge off of the cold. So other than it's comfortable, it's nice, and it goes nice, there's not a whole lot to report about the new bike. There's been no issues mechanically with it. The only things that we've done is we had it into the shop in, I guess it was May or early June, was it? I took it down there. And they did the 5,000 kilometer service, and that's about all she wrote. There's been no issues, so I haven't really, I was thinking this would be like the 1 year review of the bike, but there's nothing really
to report.
There's nothing to report, it just works. So we are going to get the rest of our gear on, and we're going to head out. Not a long ride today, maybe a couple 100 kilometers. We're going to stop along the way and hopefully see some color in the trees, yes.
Oh, we'll see some color,
Yeah, we'll see some color for sure. And we'll try and get a bit of video as we go around. I'm hoping to get the drone up in the air, as always, do a little flying and add that to the video. So as always, thank you very much for coming along with us today, and I hope you enjoy the video. So we are off on our ride. As I mentioned in the introduction, not too far today. We're going to head north here. We're on Highway 35 heading north, and then we're going to go up through a little road that we've gone through, kind of a regular spot for us, to Deep Bay Road, which is kind of like the back road up to Minden. And we're going to stop at a little kind of a boat launch park area on the way that's right beside a lake. And I'm going to try and get the drone up for a little flight. It looks like it's going to be a nice day for it. There's not a lot of wind. Really hoping to get it up there and show some of the color that's left on the trees. After that, we're going to head up, probably stop for a fuel stop in Minden, and then we're going to head north on 35 a little farther to Carnarvon, and then we're going to head over towards Halliburton. Probably stop for a little water and snack break in Halliburton. And then we're going to go down a couple of roads that I haven't been on yet this year. One is the road that kind of connects Halliburton to Gooderham, and then we're going to jump on the 507, also known as the Buckhorn Road, and that takes us down almost all the way to Buckhorn, and then we'll sort of head home through Bobcaygeon from there. But I've heard from the Ontario Spyder Riders group that the Buckhorn Road has had some bit of TLC this summer. Last year when I was on, it was getting pretty broken up, but I hear they've done some paving, and I'm looking forward to doing that road when it's not such a bumpy ride, so we're going to go check that out. So as I mentioned, not too far today, and along the way I'm going to come in and out and give you a kind of review of what we did over the 2022 riding season. Okay, so we're at our first stop of the day. This is Little Gull Lake, and we're going to walk up, kind of up in that area up there, and we're going to go and do a little bit of drone flying. Hopefully we'll get some nice color from the trees. Okay, so here's where our launch point's going to be, out on this little flat area here. Little Gull Lake. So the 2022 riding season, we got started, I got out before Leslie and I went to Antigua in April, and got out for I think I just got out for one ride, just to kind of get it out of my system that I wanted to get a ride in April, so got that done, and then we went off to Antigua for a week, and then after we got back, the season got underway. The 2022 season was kind of broken into two significant parts. I did a bunch of solo riding in the earlier part of the season, sort of May and June, and my goal was to try and do some longer rides, so you know, up in this sort of 500 kilometer range, just to see how that would go going out for a full day of riding. And I'll go over each one of those rides and where I went a little later. The second part of our riding season was just two trips that we went on, about 4 or 5 days each. The first one was down to Grand Bend and Owen Sound and up onto the Bruce Peninsula. And the second one we went over to Perth and Gananoque. Well folks, there's a good example of some nice fall color on that hillside up there. I'm not sure if the color is coming to its peak or if it's coming past its peak, but that's pretty nice. And we've got the sun behind us, which is making it look even nicer. So the first part of the season, as I mentioned, was a lot of solo riding for me, and I did 3 fairly big rides, which was kind of my goal, to try and do some longer rides. The first one was a very chilly, and it turned out to be also a wet day. I went out to Perth from where we live in Fenelon Falls, and it was just a cold, wet day. And I did film that ride, but it was a kind of a long day. I spent some time in the town of Perth, and we'll get into Perth more later when I talk about our trips. And then I made my way up through Calabogie, which is kind of like a ski area in that part of Ontario, and made my way across back over to the Bancroft area. And I had planned that day to go for a hike at this, I think it's called the Eagles Lookout hiking trail. But when I arrived there, sure enough, the rain came on, and that was the end of that. So that was the first long ride, which was the ride to Perth and back. That was, I think that was right around 500 kilometers. So the next ride was Kingston. Again, another healthy ride. I went on all the way to Kingston. I spent some time downtown Kingston. It was a beautiful day. The whole day I was there. And then I meandered my way back right along the shore of the St. Lawrence River, and where it joins into Lake Ontario, right at Kingston there, and came across into Prince Edward County. I took a short ferry ride onto Prince Edward County, the island, and that day included a visit to Lake on the Mountain, and that's a kind of a neat feature of that area. It's this pretty substantial lake that's kind of, I think it's about 200 feet above the Bay of Quinte, and it's quite a kind of a geological phenomenon of that area. So visited there, then I kind of made my way through Prince Edward County, back up onto the mainland, so to speak, and then home from there. So that was a good long day ride. I think I was gone for about the best part of 10 hours that day. Always taking longer when you're filming, of course. The last long ride I did this season was, and probably the longest ride this season I did, was the trip up to Barry's Bay. Barry's Bay is, well, but at one point in that trip I was pretty close to Ottawa, within a couple of 100 kilometers of Ottawa. So I went up to Barry's Bay and did this, it's called the Old Barry's Bay Road, which is one of the twisty roads of Ontario, and did a kind of a loop out through a little place called Foymount, and that was a pretty nice area of countryside out there. Very hilly, lots of elevation changes, and when I come back around that loop towards Barry's Bay again, I then carried on and I went straight through Algonquin Park on Highway 60, came out the other end at Dwight, Ontario, then picked up Highway 35, and that took me back down home. But that was a full day of riding. I was pretty tired after that. So that was definitely my longest one. That was well over 500 kilometers that day. So that worked out just fine. So that was my long rides of the summer. I do want to kind of have a little bit of a shout out here to a fellow YouTuber. The guy's name is Spyder Wayne. I'll stick a link to his channel down in the description. And this summer, he did something that I didn't know about in the motorcycling world. It's called an iron butt. And basically what you do is you do 1,000 miles, so that's over 1,600 kilometers in one day. and he did it on his Spyder. And so I think he left before daylight and got home about 10 o'clock at night. So Wayne, if you're listening out there, my hat is off to you, my friend. I would certainly not be attempting something like that at all, but way to go, buddy. So the first ride that we did with both of us on the bike, so that's when we are able to get our little lug and roll trailer all hooked up and packed up and go away for a few days, was down to Grand Bend, Ontario. That was the first stop. Grand Bend is a kind of a resort type town on the shore of Lake Huron. So that would be the east shore of Lake Huron. So it is right on the extreme western side of the province of Ontario up here in Canada. So we spent a couple of days there. A friend of ours rents a cottage there every summer, and they have been doing that for the last 30 some odd years. So we spent a couple of days there, and it was nice to have a visit. After Grand Bend, we headed north up pretty much up along the shore of Lake Huron to a place called Owen Sound, which is kind of on Georgian Bay, which is a huge bay that comes off of Lake Huron. We had a hotel booked there for 2 nights, and on the middle day we went up to Lion's Head, which is up on the Bruce Peninsula, just a bit south of Tobermory, which is the kind of the little town at the very tip of the Bruce Peninsula. And we went for a hike on the Bruce Trail, or the section of the Bruce Trail that passes through Lion's Head, and got some pretty spectacular drone footage of the limestone cliffs that are exposed in that area, which is the Niagara Escarpment. And which in that video I did a full kind of little geological history lesson about the Niagara Escarpment. As always, a link in the description below to that video, and I'll even drop the time code of where I describe what the Niagara Escarpment is all about from a geological historical perspective. So we had a great day up there, and came back down to Owen Sound for our second night, and then the next day we just headed for home. So that was the first kind of trip that we did with both of us away in the summer. That was in July. The second trip that Leslie and I did this summer, we were gone for about 5 days, and we were back over in Eastern Ontario. As I mentioned earlier, I was over in Perth in the spring of the year, and as I mentioned also, it was not a very nice day. So we felt that we had to get back over to Perth and give it a good try, because we'd only ever passed through Perth on previous rides, and we know it's a nice little town, and we wanted to get over there and spend some time in it. So we were able to get a hotel that was right in the downtown area of Perth, and we were there for 2 nights. Went out for a couple of nice meals in some of the restaurants in town, and on our kind of middle day there, we went out for a little ride on the bike, and ended up in a little town called Merrickville. Another great little town on the Rideau Canal. There's like 3 locks in succession in Merrickville, and lots of old historic ruins there. We got some great photography and some good footage when we were in Merrickville, so it was a really nice place. So finished up with Perth, and then we headed down to Gananoque. Gananoque is not that far from Perth. It's really kind of, maybe like an hour or so if you go directly. We kind of took the scenic route down to Gananoque, and again we had 2 nights booked in Gananoque. This is sort of our pattern when we go to places. We don't like to go there just for an overnight, because we want to have a day where we're there in the town or in the area, so we can kind of explore it. So on our middle day in Gananoque, man, I hope that the sun isn't blowing this camera away, but anyway, it is what it is. In our middle day at Gananoque, we went out for a boat ride on the St. Lawrence River, which was kind of nice. Weather wasn't the greatest, it was a little cloudy, but it was still a nice 1-hour cruise on a boat on the St. Lawrence River. And then that same afternoon, the weather cleared up really nice, and we went out for a ride on the Spyder, and we went out onto Howe's Island, which is kind of a unique thing. It's this little island just off of the mainland in the St. Lawrence River, and it's serviced by a ferry at one end and another ferry at the other end, and both of these ferries are cable ferries, so they're just sort of hauled across the waterway by cables. The little one at the Gananoque end was a little diesel powered one, and the one at the other end was electric. So that was a kind of a neat day, and we sort of just meandered our way up and around, and came back to Gananoque later in the day. So after Gananoque, our little trip was over, and we did the 300 or so kilometer trek back to Fenelon, and that ended off that trip, Perth and Gananoque. So I'm heading right into the sun right now, and this is the Buckhorn Road, number 507. It is one of the twisty roads of southern Ontario, but I'm going to have to take it easy today because I've got the back seat driver with me, so I'm going to have to be a little bit conservative. Have to respect her wishes back there that we don't go too crazy, because this is a pretty windy road. But one thing they have done with this road, which has really been great, is they have resurfaced it all, and I'm going to throw a map up of this road where it starts in Gooderham and then joins up with I think it's Highway 36 that goes into Buckhorn, and it goes the other way into Bobcaygeon. So they've done a pretty nice job in smoothing it out, because when I was on here last year it was pretty rough. So this is the 507, the Buckhorn Road, a twisty road from Gooderham down into Buckhorn. Well, folks, I think that's going to bring another Can-Am Spyder video to a close. We're about an hour or so away from home. Just stopped at this little kind of a trail entrance on the Buckhorn Road. So maybe it won't be our last ride?
No. We'll get one in November.
We're going to get one in November, yeah.
Yeah.
We did last year, so yeah, you're always hoping for that nice warm day.
And look at this morning. I woke up, it was 0, and it's 18 Celsius, so you never know what's going to happen.
True enough. You weren't too crazy about coming out even at 12 degrees Celsius?
No, but if the sun's out, it's a good ride.
Yeah, if the sun's right, it's a good ride. So I've got one more ride, as I mentioned in the intro. I've got to take the bike in next week, but by the looks of the weather, that's going to be a chilly ride for sure.
Not for me. I'm going to follow him in the car.
That's right. So, try not to get my knapsack in there, but that's okay. I'll shoot it from this side. So there it is. I'd say this is the first full season on our new Can-Am Spyder RT Limited, and I hope many, many more to come. So, as always, folks, if you enjoy the content on the channel, you might want to consider subscribing and hitting that little bell icon so you get reminded when we release a new video. And as always, thanks for watching another video, and thank you very much for following along with us in the 2022 riding season. We'll see you in the next one.